Welcome back to the continuation of the Best Team series. Today we are doing Unova, but exclusively Black and White today. Next week, however, we will be doing Black and White 2 as well. So 2 weeks, back to back of Best Team. Hope you guys are hyped. So, Black and White, Generation 5. Not very many Pokemon to choose from, huh Whoops?
Yeah, Black and White are pretty interesting since the only Mons we have to choose from are the ones introduced in Unova.
You're not kidding. Meaning that this Best Team was a lot harder to make than the usual ones from the past where we had a lot more options.
Just wait until we do Black and White 2. There's a lot more battles to cover in the sequels, plus a lot more Pokemon to choose from. Just as a heads up, we decided that we wanted to cover the Unova region as 2 separate parts, since Black and White 2 are a lot different when it comes to the battles you face, gym leaders, and, well, Pokemon that you can catch.
I can definitely agree. That's why we're doing Best Team for Black and White 2 next week. But enough of that. You guys are here for the Best Team for Black and White, and like I said earlier, it was hard. But I feel that overall, it is a pretty solid team and should be able to help you out on your Unova journey. Before we get any further though, we are not going to be covering egg moves, tutor moves, and version exclusive Pokemon. Not to mention that the TMs we mentioned for the Pokemon are going to be before the Elite Four. As for our team, they will be based on how well they will do against the gym leaders, rivals, Team Plasma, and the Elite Four and Champion. This team is a single team meant for the purpose of Black and White only. Now since we have covered all of the basics for our team, let's get into the creation of it. So like every team that we build, we have a starter Pokemon, and for our starter Pokemon, we have chosen Tepig.
In Arizo's best starter for Black and White video, he goes over all the reasons why Tepig is the better starter Pokemon to choose, so if you want more specific information, then you can head on over to his video and check that out. The basic rundown though is Tepig just kind of blasts through the gym leaders of this region since most of them are weak to fire and or fighting.
So now since we have our starter, let's get into its moveset. For some stab moves early on, let's start off with Ember as its earliest fire type it can get until Flame Charge. Heat Crash is an option, but the problem with that is it does damage based on the other Pokemon's weight, and sometimes that can only be good in a luck situation. Flamethrower and Flare Blitz are its final moves that it could get. Only problem with Flare Blitz is Ember does not get that until level 62 and it has recoil damage. However, if you wish to play with Flare Blitz, it is a great move nonetheless and it hits like a truck. It's a great move. We recommend Flamethrower though, because there is no recoil and Ember has a fantastic special attack stat being 100. For its secondary stab of fighting type, its earliest move it gets access to is Arm Thrust, and that's the only move that Ember line gets until they get TMs for other fighting attacks or a hard skill for Hammer Arm. Hammer Arm is a great attack with 100 base power. Only downside is the accuracy, but it's only 90 so it's not that big of a deal. Other great fighting moves are Brick Break and Low Sweep. Low Sweep is the best though because there is a 100% chance of dropping the opponent's speed, and with that low speed stat of Ember, that could come in handy a lot. Overall, these moves do really well against the majority of the gym leaders and a good majority of the important trainers.
Now that we get the stab moves covered, we need some coverage moves. As Mystic mentioned, Flamethrower and Hammer Arm are great moves, but we're going to be adding on to that. Just a heads up though, coverage moves are only ever used when you find yourself in a pinch and feel like you need to use them, but most of the time they're just kind of there as a backup. For this, we decided to go with Rock Slide and Assurance, but if you've beaten the Elite Four, then you'll have access to the TMs Earthquake and Stone Edge, so go with those instead if you can. Rock Slide can be obtained in the Mistralton Cave after the 6th gym, and is good if you're ever really praying to the Hax gods for a flinch or something. Assurance is another really good move, especially for the Elite Four. Ember can pick this move up at around level 38, and due to his naturally low speed, it's basically a 100 base power dark type move. Some other choices could be Rock Tomb or Head Smash, but Rock Tomb is weaker than Rock Slide, and Head Smash, while being a pretty powerful move, has some pretty big negative side effects, which aren't worth it in our opinion.
Now since we have chosen our starter, let's get into building the real team. For our next Pokemon, we have chosen Lillipup. Lillipup can literally be obtained right outside of Novema Town at Route 1, and they can later be evolved into Stoutland. Okay, let me just say this Pokemon hits like a truck, and its move pool is very good, despite its special attack stat only being at 45. What makes Stoutland better than the other normal types in Unova is the fact that it has access to all of the elemental fangs, and let's be real, the Patrat line is garbage. Having a good normal Pokemon can be good in certain situations where those coverage moves are available. Having such a high attack stat as well can really punch holes in an opponent's team, especially with the powerful stab moves it has access to. That helps out so much as well because not many trainers from Unova resist normal type attacks, besides for a few, so it's a hard-hitting Pokemon if the player's options are low.
Now, as far as stabs go, Stoutland doesn't hit anything for super effective damage, but that's no reason to disregard the power that it has. Early on, obviously you're going to start off with Tackle, then you'll have access to Takedown at level 15, right before the evolution into Herdier. From there, you don't really get any new moves via level up, so for the better stab moves, we'd recommend going with some TMs or HMs, such as Return with Max Happiness, which you can pick up in Nimbasa City for around 10,000 Pokédollars, Strength, or even as I mentioned before, Takedown. If you really wanted to be a little rambunctious, you could even run Workup or something like that, just to get your attack raised up a few notches.
As far as coverage moves go, Stoutland has a pretty big advantage. We recommend Crunch and Bite early on. Crunch can be used on Skyla's Swoobat, Chantel's team, Caitlin's team, Gets's Cofagrigus, and Bianca's Musharna line. Next are the Elemental Fangs, and all of these are generally very good, depending on the situation the player is in. But the two we recommend though are Fire and Ice Fang. Thunder Fang is good too, and it can even help out against Charon Samurott, but Ice Fang and Fire Fang just cover a lot more throughout the important battles of Black and White. There is an unfortunate part about the Elemental Fangs though, and that is because the player does not have access to them until Mistralthan City or on the 6th gym, and they can be taught to Stoutland via Move or Learner. For the remainder of the game, the player has these moves though. Ice Fang does well against Skyla, the Dragon Gym Leaders, En's Zekrom for White, and En's Archeops and Gets's Hydreigon. Fire Fang does well against Bryson's team, Grimsley's Bisharp, En's Vanillux, Klinklang, and Gets's Bisharp.
This one's kind of a temporary team member that doesn't require much detail since he's only here for a little bit to help you take out Cress, but Pansage is practically given to you, which isn't a bad thing at all. It's a free Pokemon. You can use it to Vine Whip the crap out of his Panpour and then drop it off in your PC since we won't be needing it anymore for this best team. Sandile is a Pokemon that can be caught only a few steps outside of Castelia City. When Mystic and I were taking a look at this team, we knew we needed some heavy hitters. I mean, heavy hitters practically blow away this region's leaders in Elite Four. But we just knew we needed to include Crocodile on this team. He's available pretty much around the same time you'll be collecting the rest of your team, starting on Route 4. It's also available in the Desert Resort and the Relic Castle and is a big help for the Nimbasa City Gym Leader and all its electric types, especially with its pretty good stab moves. Right, Mystic?
Yes, most definitely. Even as a Sandile and Krokorok in its early days, it gets access to some great moves like Bite, Sand Tomb because it's the only ground move at that point, literally. When it's a Krokorok, it gets Crunch and Dig. And then it evolves into Crocodile, and the moves we recommend are Crunch and Earthquake. Starting off though, the Crocodile line does well against Elace's Zebstrika, Clay's Excadrill, Chantel's and Caitlin's teams, Bianca's Musharna line, En's Kirakosta, Klinklang, and Gets's Bisharp and Cofagrigus.
As far as coverage goes, Crocodile has a lot of options. You could pick up Dragon Claw for some extra damage. It won't be super effective against anyone else you run into, but it's still a good move nonetheless. Some other pretty viable moves would be Return with Max Happiness, of course to hit for some pretty big damage and also have a very wide coverage. Rock Slide would also be a pretty viable option to pull out some much needed flinches. Brick Break would help out against Grimsley a lot, and Aerial Ace could help take out Marshall as well.
Dang. There sure are a lot of Pokemon we want on our team in the Desert of Unova, and guess what? Our fourth Pokemon is there, being Yamask and later evolving into Cofagrigus. Yamask can be found in the Relic Castle on the first floor and the basement floor 1. This Pokemon has some amazing defenses and is our fighting Pokemon resistance. We needed a defensive Pokemon on our team because all the Pokemon we have so far are fast and hard hitters. Cofagrigus can be good in taking those hits and being able to retaliate back with that amazing 95 special attack stat. This Pokemon's speed may not be the greatest, but that's expected of a wall-type Pokemon. Regardless though, it can take hits for days and can be very handy.
When you first pick up your Yamask, it'll probably be starting off with Hex and Nightshade, two very good starting Ghost-type moves. At level 25, you'll be able to pick up Ominous Wind, which is a pretty good move on its own and has a pretty cool side effect of possibly boosting up all your stats. Once you evolve your Yamask into a Cofagrigus, you can pick up Shadow Ball at level 39. Another move we chose is also Hex, and you guys will see why when Mystic explains the coverage moves. Honestly though, Shadow Ball and Hex are both great moves, so either one is fine.
So for coverage, we don't have much to pick aside from a few damaging moves and a lot of non-damaging moves. Speaking of those, the first one we decided on was Will-O-Wisp. It can be very handy when it comes to crippling down those very powerful hard-hitting Pokemon, as Burn can half the Pokemon's physical attack, and it can slowly dwindle down the opponent. Will-O-Wisp and Hex also make a great combo, as Hex does double the damage when a Pokemon is under status element. Some other options for Kofag are Double Team, Swagger, and Trick Room. Honestly, this fourth move pool is the player's choice. These killer combinations can be used against Skyla Swoobat, Caitlyn, Chantel's team, and Ghetsis' own Cofagrigus, or any of the powerful Pokemon on anyone's team. It does 130 power essentially. It's really unfortunate that a lot of the TMs are accessible only post-game, so Cofagrigus really lacks in this field. It's still a great Pokemon though, nonetheless. Now it's time for our fifth Pokemon, and we need a flying type. Unfortunately, it's not going to be Unfezant. Unfezant is fast and hits hard, but where are the physical flying attacks? All of its level up moves are special, but that's for Sky Attack, and that's at level 66, and it can only hit 5 times, on top of having to charge it for a turn. Sure, there are other flying TMs, but there are only Aerial Ace and Pluck. Aerial Ace has 60 power and can't miss. That's good and all, but that's the only move it can get, literally. Pluck can be found in the aftergame at the exchange corner. Anyways, enough about Unfezant. Our next Pokemon is Sigilith. Sigilith can be found right after Castelia City at the Desert Resort. This Pokemon is amazing. Great stats, fantastic level up moves, and a great variety of TMs to choose from. Only bad thing is its physical attack stat. But if you look past all of that, this Pokemon is incredible. It's by far probably the best flying Pokemon in Black and White, excluding legendaries. This Pokemon is fast and hits very hard. It can be used in almost any situation possible with these amazing variety of moves. I have nothing else to say about this amazing Pokemon. It is so underrated, so I'll just let Whoops get right into the moveset.
To start off with a stab moveset, Sigilith probably has some of the best moves available by level up. When you encounter it in the Desert Resort, it's around level 20 and will probably know Psybeam, Whirlwind, Tailwind, and Psywave, so it's already got a pretty sick moveset, but at level 21 it gets access to Air Cutter. At 31 it gets Synchro Noise, but let's face it, that's kind of a no-go as it's a very situational move. However, around the same time we'll probably be taking on Skyla, where this move could potentially work in your favor, so I guess it's not all that bad. Jumping ahead about 10 levels, at 41 it's granted access to Air Slash, and 3 levels more it gets Psychic. These moves would be perfect for taking down Elite Four member Marshall, and by using some additional coverage moves, gives you the option to hit even harder on some other members.
Like I said before about this Pokemon's coverage moves, there are so many to choose from. Unfortunately though, a lot of its great TM moves are only available post-game, but there are still some good ones to choose, such as Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball covers its ghost weakness and can help out in pinches against Chantel, and do very well against Caitlyn if need be. It can also help out against Bianca's Musharna line. Its last move was kind of tricky to choose, but we came to the conclusion that Charge Beam would be best. It only has 50 base power, but has a chance to higher the special attack. It can hit Skyla's team very nicely, Charon, Samura, and Unfezant, and ends Kirakosta and Archeops. These were the best 2 moves we could find for it that could benefit it the most due to the lack of TMs only being available for it post-game.
And finally, to complete our team and our reach the stars above, we have the fossil Pokemon that we can pick up in the Relic Castle. When given the option to choose your fossil, make sure you choose the cover fossil, because we're going to want that Tortuga. Once you take your fossil, go ahead and head back to the Nakreen City Museum and get your fossil restored, because Kirakosta is a pretty solid Pokemon in both attack and defenses. As far as stabs go, when you first resurrect this chunk of rocks, it'll know Aqua Jet and Ancient Power to start. By no means are these bad moves, and will actually serve you pretty well, but we do suggest swapping Ancient Power out with Smackdown at level 31, as this will help out a lot with Skyla if you choose to use it there, and it will also help out a lot with Bryson's Gym, Charon's Unfezant line, Chantel's Chandelure, Caitlyn's Sigilith, and End's Archeops as well. We also suggest sticking to physical moves on this one and teaching it Waterfall, but if you think you can handle it, feel free to pick up Surf or Scald, and holding out for Rock Slide at level 51, or go ahead and teach it by TM.
Okay, time for coverage. The first one we have is Blizzard. This devastating freezing attack can be used on the Dragon Gym Leader's teams, and is also its main coverage against its quad weakness of Grass. The last move we chose is Focus Blast. This attack can be great against Grimsley's Dark type, but it's not recommended due to how slow Kirakosta can be. It also does well against Charon's Gigalith, Liepard, Bianca Stoutland, End's Kirakosta, Vanillux, Zoroark, and Klinklang. and gets us his Hydreigon, Bouffalant, and Bisharp. Our only advice for this attack is to not miss. Well, that pretty much wraps up the best team for Black and White. All of these Pokemon do very well on a journey through Unova and definitely can give the player that momentum they need to complete their games well and efficient. What Pokemon do you feel would be a great team for Black and White though? Share them with us in the comment section below. Whoops, did you want to say anything else before we end it off today?
If you guys want to see more, make sure to head on over to my channel where Mystic and I count down 10 trainers that we want to see make a return in Pokemon Sun and Moon. It's a pretty entertaining video, so come on over. See what I did there? Cause N, black and white, and ends on the, yeah.
I see what you did there. Well, if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and share this video with a friend. With that being said though, I've been Mystic Umbreon, and I will see you in the future for more Pokemon content.